Last week I did a video going over every team's worst free agency signing since 2010, and a lot of you guys in the comments wanted to see me do the opposite version of that, and today we're going to be doing that, every team's best free agency signing since 2010. So this one's going to be a little bit more positive than the other video was, so this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. A lot of great free agency signings have been made, and some of the best of all time in my opinion. And like always, if you agree or disagree with any of my selections for your favorite team or just any team in general, please let me know in the comments. And if you do enjoy these style videos, I'd appreciate it if you drop a thumbs up, and let's get into it. So we're going to start off with the Miami Heat, and this is one of the best free agency signings of all time, LeBron James in 2010. LeBron signed a 6-year, $110 million contract with the Miami Heat in 2010, which ended up being a sign and trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers. This obviously had opt-outs towards the end of it because LeBron did just spend 4 years in Miami, and this could have been peak LeBron, honestly. In his first year, he finished third in MVP voting, averaged 27 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 7 assists, played 39 minutes a night in 79 games, and helped lead the Heat to the NBA Finals, which we all know they lost to the Dallas Mavericks. And then he followed that up in 2012 with maybe his greatest year ever. He won MVP on all defensive first team, finished 4th in defensive player of the year voting, averaged 27 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists as the Heat won the NBA championship against the OKC Thunder. We know that they won it again the following year in 2013. LeBron won MVP again, all defensive first team again, finished runner-up at defensive player of the year voting. And then in 2014 in Miami, he finished 2nd in MVP voting as the Heat lost to the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals. So LeBron signed with the Miami Heat, played there for 4 years, won 2 MVPs, finished runner-up at defensive player of the year, had a couple other top 5 MVP finishes, won 2 rings, lost 2 other ones. Just going to the finals every single year of this contract has to make it one of the best of all time. For the Charlotte Hornets, this was actually a deal that got a lot of flack at the time back in the 2019 offseason. It was a sign and trade in which Kemba Walker ended up going to Boston, and they got Terry Rozier on a 3-year deal worth $56 million, around $18.9 million a year. And yeah, like I said, a lot of people didn't like the signing at the time because they were moving on from one of their greatest players in franchise history in Kemba Walker, but Terry Rozier was really good in his 4.5 seasons in Charlotte, where he averaged 20 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, over a steal a night, and shot 44% from the field, 37% from 3, and 84% from the line. There really wasn't too much winning success throughout his tenure in Charlotte, but he played really well for them and played really good to start off the 2024 season, which helped elevate his trade value, where Charlotte was able to trade him to Miami for a first-round pick. So Charlotte got 4.5 good years out of Terry Rozier, and then were able to trade him for a first-round pick. That is a fantastic signing by the Hornets. Back in the summer of 2013, Paul Millsap was a free agent from the Utah Jazz, and he signed a 2-year, $19 million contract with the Atlanta Hawks in the 2013 offseason. This one was a phenomenal deal for Atlanta. Millsap ended up re-signing there for a few more years throughout it, so he ended up spending 4 years in Atlanta, where he averaged 17.5 points, 8 rebounds, 3.5 assists a night, over a steal and a half a night, a block a night, and shot 46% from the field, 34% from 3, and 75% from the line. And he was an all-star in every single year of that contract in Atlanta before he signed with the Denver Nuggets in the 2017 offseason. This is one of the more underrated signings of the 2010s. The bar is so low for Orlando Magic free agency signing since 2010. I don't really have a good one that I want to give in this video, so I'm going to say it's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Yes, he has to do so little to be the best signing they've had since 2010. The Magic just signed KCP to a 3-year, $66 million contract, and with his 3-and-D ability and championship pedigree and experience, this should be a good signing for the Orlando Magic. Because if you go back in time, a lot of the big Magic signings since 2010 weren't good. DJ Augustine was a fine deal. Bismack Biyombo did not work out. Channing Frye didn't work out. Jonathan Simmons was Al-Farouq Aminu really was fine. So like I said, the bar is pretty low for Magic free agency signings. That's why I'm going with KCP. And for Washington, yeah, the bar is pretty low as well. You could talk about Spencer Dinwiddie, who wasn't really great for Washington, but they were able to leverage his contract with Davis Bertans' terrible deal to go out and get Kristaps Porzingis, which was a great deal. But I'm actually going to go with Paul Pierce, who only played 1 year in Washington, and that was in the 2015 season, where he averaged 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists a night, and helped the Washington Wizards finish with a 46-36 record. They swept the Raptors in round number 1. They did lose to the Hawks in 6 games in round number 2, but Pierce, in one of his final good years in the NBA, really gave Washington some quality play alongside Bradley Beal and John Wall. Like I said, the bar is pretty low. Malik Monk really did not have a good start to his career in Charlotte, looked like a bust then, and then, you know what, had a fine year in LA, but LA wasn't gonna be able to afford to re-sign him after the 2022 season, so Sacramento picked him up for a 2-year, $19 million contract in the 2022 offseason, and this is a phenomenal deal. Over the last 2 years in Sacramento, Malik Monk has averaged 14.5 points, 4.5 assists, 3 rebounds, rebounds a night, and has shot 45% from the field, 35% from three, and 86% from the line. He finished 5th in 6th Man of the Year voting in 2023. He finished runner-up in 6th Man of the Year voting in 2024, and in my opinion, should have won the award. And he has been one of the best bench players in all of basketball since he signed with Sacramento, and the deal worked out so much that he was able to sign a massive contract with them this offseason. Job well done, Sacramento. This could be the second time we're mentioning LeBron James for a team, and it won't be the last. So the best Lakers signing since 2010 has to be LeBron James in the 2018 offseason. This deal was a 4-year, $153 maximum offer. Obviously, he's re-signed a couple years since that, but basically since LeBron has joined the LA Lakers over 6 seasons, he's averaged 27 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds a night, has shot 51% from the field, has made it to the All-Star game every single year over the last 6 years, finished runner-up in MVP voting as well in the 2020 season, and oh yeah, was a Finals MVP in 2020. If you sign somebody that ends up being a Finals champion for you or a Finals MVP, it's definitely one of your best signings in franchise history, and this is one of the best signings overall since 2010. Kawhi Leonard won Finals MVP with the Toronto Raptors after the 2019 season and then signed with the LA Clippers on a 3-year, $103 million contract offer with them, and that is the best Clippers signing since 2010. Kawhi has obviously signed an extension since that initial deal as well, and over Kawhi's 4 years with the Clippers since he did not play due to an ACL injury in 2022, he's averaged 25 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists a night. 3 of the 4 healthy seasons in Los Angeles for the Clippers, he made an All-Star appearance. Also 2 All-Defensive teams and a couple All-NBA teams as well, and I know they haven't won a championship and Paul George just left the LA Clippers, but this is still their best free agency signing since 2010. Another underrated signing that we're going to talk about was in 2012 for the Phoenix Suns when they signed Goran Dragic to a 4-year, $30 million contract from the Houston Rockets, $7.5 million a year. This was a phenomenal deal for the Suns. Dragic actually started his career off in Phoenix before getting traded to Houston in the 2011 season, and then he went back to Phoenix for 2.5 years before getting traded to Miami at the 2015 trade deadline. But over those 2.5 years, he averaged 17 points, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds a night for the Phoenix Suns, and shot 49% from the field, 36% from three, and 76% from the line. In my opinion, was one of the more entertaining point guards to watch in the league, and even won most improved player in the 2014 season. For the Golden State Warriors, I would love to talk about Andre Iguodala, who signed a 4-year, $48 million contract with the Warriors in the 2013 offseason. He obviously won a Finals MVP with them in 2015, but there's one that's obviously better, and that was Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors in 2016. At the time, it was a 2-year, $54 million contract. KD obviously re-signed 1 more year with them, so KD spent 3 years in Golden State from 2017 to 2019, made it to the finals every single year, won Finals MVP in 2017 and 2018, could have won it in 2019, but he obviously suffered major injuries throughout that playoff run, and in those 3 years, he averaged 26 points, 7 rebounds, 5.5 assists a night on elite efficiency, and this was the big free agency signing that just broke the NBA as a whole. Kevin Durant was arguably a top 3 player in the NBA, in my opinion, was at the time, and signed with the 73-win Warriors to only enhance their dynasty even more and make them one of the greatest teams ever in the 2017 to 2018 season. But yeah, shout out to the Andre Iguodala signing. Remember when I said a lot of people gave the Hornets flack for the Terry Rozier signing? This one got so much more hate. It was Jalen Brunson to the New York Knicks in the 2022 offseason. Jalen Brunson signed a 4-year, $104 million contract with the New York Knicks in that 2022 offseason, has a player option in 2026 that he's most obviously going to opt out of. And after 2 years in New York, what hasn't Jalen Brunson done? He's averaged 26.5 points, 6.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds on elite efficiency, 48% from the field, 41% from three, 84% from the line. He was elite in the 2023 season for the Knicks, fully breaking out, finished 3rd in most improved player voting, helped lead the Knicks to their first playoff series in over a decade, and then they ended up losing to the Miami Heat in round number 2. And then the 2024 season, Brunson broke out, 29 points per game. He was an all-star. He was on All-NBA second team, finished 5th in MVP voting as he helped lead the Knicks to a playoff series victory over the Philadelphia 76ers. And it's crazy. This Brunson signing has turned him into just a star in New York, and Knicks fans are saying that he's the best Knick since Patrick Ewing. Yeah, even better than Carmelo Anthony. We mentioned Kevin Durant with the Golden State Warriors in 2016, but we're going to mention Kevin Durant with the Brooklyn Nets in 2019. This was a sign and trade that sent D'Lo to the Golden State Warriors and Kevin Durant to the Brooklyn Nets on a 4-year, $164 maximum contract offer with them. And then in the 2022 offseason, he did re-sign with them and then obviously got traded to the Phoenix Suns. And KD suffered that Achilles injury in the 2019 finals, so he did miss his first year in Brooklyn, but over the course of 3 seasons, he averaged 29 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists a night. And in my opinion, 2021 Kevin Durant was one of the best versions we have seen from him. They obviously lost against the Milwaukee Bucks in round 2 in the playoffs. And then the year later, they ended up losing to Boston in round number 1, and then he was traded at the 2023 deadline to the Phoenix Suns. It didn't work out in the playoffs for KD and Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn, but at least they were able to trade KD for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and a ton of picks. And then they were able to flip Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks this offseason for even more picks. For the Boston Celtics, we're going to go with Al Horford, who they signed in the 2016 offseason. It was a 4-year deal worth $113 million, but he did just spend 3 years in Boston of that deal, where he was an all-star in the 2018 season, and over the course of those 3 years, he averaged 13.5 points, 7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists, and was great from the field, 50% from the field, 38% from 3, and 80% from the line, and played some great defense also. And then make Celtics fans even happier, he ended up signing a massive deal with the 76ers that offseason, did not play well for them, and then ended up being back in Boston for the last 2 years and helped them win an NBA title in the 2024 season. So we've just talked about some legends, right? Legendary free agency signings in Jalen Brunson and Kevin Durant and LeBron James. For the Toronto Raptors, they're joining the Orlando Magic and the Washington Wizards for a very low bar. It's Cory Joseph, who they signed in 2015 to a 4-year, $29 million deal. He only played 2 years in Toronto from 2016 to 2017. He averaged 9 points, 3 assists, and shot 45% from the field, and then was traded by the Raptors to Indiana for Amir Prelzic. Yeah, but I just don't have many other offers that you can include for Toronto in this video. We're not talking about Jared Sullinger, Landry Fields, Tyler Hansborough, Damari Carroll, or Aaron Baines. Man, yeah, the Raptors haven't done a good job in free agency since 2010. And for the Philadelphia 76ers, you could talk about Paul George. The bar is relatively low, and I'm sure Paul George will surpass the guy I'm going to talk about, but he did give Philadelphia 2 good years, and that's going to be JJ Redick, who they signed in the 2017 offseason with the large amount of cap space they had. And 2 years in Philadelphia, JJ Redick averaged 17.5 points, shot 45% from the field, 41% from 3, and really provided them some optimal floor spacing with non-shooters on the floor like Ben Simmons at the time. For Minnesota, you could talk about Kevin Martin, you could talk about Kyle Anderson, but honestly, 2018 Derrick Rose is going to be my selection because that 2019 resurgence of Derrick Rose in Minnesota holds a special place in my heart. Minnesota took a flyer on Derrick Rose in the 2018 season, kept him through the 2019 season, where he had his best season in years. In 2019 for the Wolves, Derrick Rose finished 8th in most improved player voting, 6th in 6th man of the year voting. He averaged 18 points, 4.5 assists, 2.5 rebounds, and shot 48% from the field, 37% from 3, 86% from the line, and even had a 50-point game that season. In the 2022 offseason, the Denver Nuggets took a flyer on Brooklyn Nets role player Bruce Brown, and that's going to be the pick for today's video. Brown signed a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Denver Nuggets, but was able to opt out of it in year 2 because he outplayed his contract in year number 1. He played 80 games for the Nuggets in the 2023 season, started 31 of them, averaged 29 minutes a night, 11.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, over a steal a night, was really efficient, and was such a vital part to the Denver Nuggets championship team in 2023, and you could see how much they missed them in the 2024 season. I was actually shocked to see how low the bar was for the Oklahoma City Thunder, because they've obviously drafted really well in the start of the decade, but then kind of fizzled off in the mid-2010s, and they didn't really have major cap space at any point. So you could go with Isaiah Hartenstein, who they just signed, but before that, I'm going to talk about Kenrich Williams, who they picked up from New Orleans in the 2020 offseason. Williams really didn't do too much in New Orleans. He shot 34% from the field in the 2020 season, but then after signing with OKC in 2020, he played 66 games for them, shot 53% from the field, 44% from 3, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists a night, was flying around on the defensive end of the floor and up and down in transition. He was a really good role player from 2020 to 2023, averaging 8 points, 4.5 rebounds. Obviously was needed a little bit less in the 2024 season as this Thunder team gets better, but Williams was a great pickup for the Thunder in 2020. For the Portland Trailblazers, we're going to talk about the Al-Farouq Aminu signing from the 2015 offseason. It was 4 years for $30 million. And Aminu was a really good role player during the Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum era in Portland. Over the 4-year deal, he shot 41% from the field, 35% from 3, 77% from the line, 9.5 points a night, 7 rebounds, assists and a half, a steal a night, played really good defense, and like I said, was a really solid role player signing. And the Portland Trailblazers did not really do a great job in free agency since 2010. I almost went with Gary Payton just because they were able to trade him for a lot of second round picks. For the Utah Jazz, we're going to go with Bojan Bogdanovic, who signed a 4-year, $73 million contract with the Jazz in the 2019 offseason. Bojan played 3 years in Utah before getting traded to Detroit in 2022, but over those 3 years in Utah, he was really good and lived up to that contract. He averaged 18.5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists a night, and shot 45% from the field, 40% from 3, and 88% from the line, and was a big part of that Utah Jazz team that was really good in 2021. The Indiana Pacers, they were able to do a sign and trade with a former Rookie of the Year winner in the 2019 offseason, picking up Malcolm Brogdon on a 4-year, $85 million contract. Brogdon played 3 years in Indiana, averaging 19 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds a night. He shot 45% from the field, 35% from 3, and 87% from the line. In the first half of that contract too, he was a really good defender. It fell off a little bit towards the end of the contract, but Brogdon was still a really solid player for the Pacers, and they were able to trade him in the 2022 offseason to the Boston Celtics, and they were able to get Aaron Nesmith in that deal and a future first-round pick as well. For Detroit, I had to go with Jerami Grant, who they signed to a 3-year, $60 million contract in the 2020 offseason, and Grant in year 1 of that contract in 2021 was really good. He played in 54 games, 34 minutes a night, finished second in most improved player voting, and averaged 22 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3 assists on solid efficiency. And then in 2022, he averaged 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, and then was traded to the Portland Trailblazers in the 2022 offseason for a future first-round pick. So yeah, it wasn't the best signing in the world, but it was solid for Detroit, even though it didn't really translate to any winning. I want to give a shout out to Pau Gasol to the Chicago Bulls in the 2014 offseason, 3 years, $22 million. It was a good deal, but I'm going to go with DeMar DeRozan, who they did a sign and trade with in the 2021 offseason, because DeMar DeRozan in the 2022 season was phenomenal for Chicago. Their best individual season since MVP Derrick Rose. He played in 76 games in 2022, 36 minutes a night, averaged 28 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. He was an all-star. He finished 10th in MVP voting on All-NBA second team. And he was the #1 guy on a really fun Bulls team that was at the top of the Eastern Conference before the Lonzo Ball injury. He followed it up in 2023 with a 24.5 point per game season, another all-star appearance, and then averaged 24 points and led the NBA in minutes in the 2024 season before now getting recently signed and traded to the Sacramento Kings. LeBron James returned to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2014 offseason, so he's gonna make this video for the third and final time. It's actually crazy that LeBron was a free agent 3 different times, switched teams going to Miami in 2010, Cleveland in 2014, LA in 2018, and these are some of the best signings of all time because he won a title with all 3 of these teams. LeBron ended up returning to Cleveland for 4 years from 2015 to 2018. Over those 4 years, he was an all-star every year, All-NBA first team every year, finished top 5 in MVP voting each season, and averaged 26 points, 8 assists, 7.5 rebounds a night, and oh yeah, a finals MVP in 2016 when they came back down 3-1 against the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, one of the best seasons of all time. For the Milwaukee Bucks, it's going to be them taking a flyer on veteran big man Brook Lopez in the 2018 offseason. They signed him to a 1-year, $3 million deal. And oh yeah, after the signing, Brook Lopez learned how to shoot threes. He took 6.5 3-pointers in the 2019 season, hitting 36% of them, and he's still playing with the Milwaukee Bucks today. This has turned into a 6-year partnership with him and the Bucks, and he's averaged 13 points, 5 rebounds, assists, 2.5 blocks a night, and shot 48% from the field, 35% from 3, 82% from the line over the last 6 seasons. He was on all defensive second team in 2020, all defensive first team in 2023, runner-up to Jaren Jackson Jr. in defensive player of the year voting, and was a vital part to their 2021 NBA title team. So I kind of wanted to talk about Chris Paul for the Houston Rockets, but I can't really do that since he signed an extension with them after getting traded a year later. So I'm going to go with Dwight Howard, who only spent 3 years in Houston, but they were solid years. It was a really nice signing in the 2013 offseason because of the 2014 season. After a down year in LA, Dwight Howard averaged 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks a night for Houston in 2014, was an all-star, finished top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year voting on All-NBA second team, and was a nice big man partner with James Harden. His career kind of went south. All the numbers dropped in 2015 with Houston and 2016 with Houston, but they got out at the right time, still gave them solid production before his career really kind of ended up falling off in Atlanta, Charlotte, and Washington over the following seasons. Tyus Jones signed a 3-year, $26 million contract with the Memphis Grizzlies in the 2019 offseason, and it really worked out for both sides. Jones ended up spending 4 years in Memphis, averaging 8 points, 4.5 assists, and 2 rebounds a night, shot 44% from the field and 37% from 3, and was a really nice backup point guard to Ja Morant over the course of that contract. You could also go with Kyle Anderson as well. For the San Antonio Spurs, it's them signing LaMarcus Aldridge to a 4-year, $84 million contract in the 2015 offseason. Aldridge had 5 really good years in San Antonio from 2016 to 2020, averaging 20 points, 8 rebounds, and shot 50% from the field and 84% from the line. He was an all-star in 3 of those 5 seasons, including a phenomenal 2018 season where he also finished 9th in MVP voting and was on All-NBA second team, but it didn't really live up to the hype that we all thought it could be, being a successor to Tim Duncan after that contract was signed. The Pelicans have made some bad free agency signings since 2010, and they didn't really have too many good ones, but they did get a nice 1 year out of Julius Randle in the 2019 season. In 2019 for the Pelicans, playing alongside Anthony Davis, he shot 52% from the field, 34% from 3, and averaged 21.5 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. Who knows? It could have been a little bit differently if Anthony Davis really didn't want to get traded halfway through the season. And lastly, for the Dallas Mavericks, I need you guys who are Mavericks fans or anybody to let me know in the comments who is the best free agency signing since 2010. They don't have one that stands out to me because they obviously traded for Kyrie Irving, so we can't mention him. There's 4 guys I could talk about. Let me know which one you think is the best. You can go with Vince Carter, you can go with Seth Curry, Harrison Barnes, or Chandler Parsons. I think they're kind of all in the ballpark with each other. So yeah, just let me know down below. And I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you dropped a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments, like I said, if you agree or disagree with any of my selections for this video. And if you do enjoy these, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one.